traveling, but both of them are going to watch this this tape, and so don't feel like if we don't have a full house here that we're not listening, because everybody really cares about this. We've gotten more probably emails and phone calls and big different kinds of meetings about this issue than almost anything else. I think short-term rentals may have you beat. But accessory dwelling units is an important one, and we have a ways to go on this. So we're not making a decision next council meeting. This is something that will probably come up after the first of the year. When it does, we will have probably a work session where council will express their preference on things. And then we usually direct staff to come back if we're going to do some kind of a ordinance, or we may not do anything. There's all kinds of choices on the menu. But as you know, this is about single family home residential R1 zone. And whether we will allow accessory dwelling units to be detached on top of a garage or an existing shed or building that gets torn down and is part of somebody's lot, and whether there's a specification about the size of that lot or specifications about whether we allow it at all. Council has expressed, the majority of council is leery about detached, but we want to hear about that tonight as well. We don't want to have any discussion. Whether there are design requirements, whether we allow attached accessory dwelling units, so that would be ones that are on an existing house, and again, whether there's a lot size or design standards, or whether we allow apartments in existing single-family homes, so in a basement or maybe upstairs, or whether we allow them at all. We may just only allow them in a neighborhood that's zoned for fourplexes or duplexes, and that's something that may be permissible. But this is, I know this is an emotional debate, and so we really are just here to listen tonight. I have a list, but if you haven't signed up on the list, at the end I will ask you to raise your hand and you can come forward and talk. And we hope that people don't repeat what other people are saying, because once we hear it, we don't need to hear it again. We're not here to show hands and see how many people are for or against. That's not how we're going to make a decision. And then the other part is that we hope that you can hold your applause or your boos or hisses and only laugh at my corny jokes, because I think it just helps the flow of the evening, and so we're not taking valuable time away from people. So. But I have a list in front of me, and I have Patty Pignotti is the first one. And what's that? Right now there's about, looks like there's 8, 12, or 16, probably there's about 20 to 24 right now. And what I'll do is I'll call the next couple people in line just so you can get ready. So Siri Eskovitz and Greg Hill and Christine Weatherby, those are the ones up next. Patty, welcome. And if everybody doesn't mind stating their name for the record, I'll probably mispronounce it.
Patty Pignotti, I live in Falcon Estates West. Larry Bagley was going to send you all an email in his absence tonight. I don't know if you received one from him today. I can't talk in front of people, so if it sounds like I'm crying, I'm not really crying. It's just my voice does craziness. The very first time I had talked, Ted was out of town, so I talked to Sam, and he did a great job. And I said, I have things to propose, but I'm not politically correct or political. Here I am. So again, and he says, you've come to the right place, because this is where we change laws and the people that are able to do that. In Falcon Estates, we all have a minimum of 1 acre. And so purchased in there because of the distance between the homes. And I can get in my hot tub without anybody seeing me, etc., thank God. But anyway, I have some things that I'm concerned about. Zoning has not returned my calls. I don't know if you're aware of that, including Peter and Megan and Morgan and Hannah at all. And regional or Kate that oversees them is not returning my calls either. She said she was told not to talk to me about 7353 Braccio in our neighborhood that is doing, is my almost over? That's doing a habitable facility above a new garage. And Roger Lavelle sent that to me and said it's a place to live, a place that you can occupy, a place to live. The only thing it doesn't have is it doesn't have a stove. Well, my 300,000 RV doesn't have a stove either, but it's got a convection oven which I can cook, bake, and etc. in it too. My first proposal that I sent to Sam, and you all are trying to fix this loophole, is to define that any place that somebody can occupy pretty much is habitable, a place or ADU. Secondly, I was watching live the other day when you were doing the short terms. Very impressed live, I got to see that. And you were talking about 500 feet, 5 houses that y'all typically do. And that is about as private as you can get, is you're involving the neighbors. I'm asking you to involve the HOAs. I know that you can't do it presently, but I'm asking you, since zoning and regional pull up that house based off of everything, that you can see that we're residential and maybe put an asterisk and say that this has got an HOA, something that, because this is all new to all of us. I provided, my son lives in Seattle, pictures of the ADUs there. And so anyway, I'm asking you to reconsider like a pop-up idea that we can work with the city and the homeowners association, because 2 of the people in our neighborhood have gone to regional and zoning without us.
Okay, good.
All right.
David, did you want to comment briefly?
A very brief comment, and this is to address everybody. We have been advised by the city attorney that the city council does not have authority over HOA restrictions. So that is an issue that we cannot address.
Yeah, so if your HOA doesn't permit accessory dwelling units, we can't override that. So those of you who have HOAs, you may have that in place, or you may want to
We're
make that
sitting out
rule.
with all of us having an acre. We're on both sides of Academy. Larry Bagley lives on the east, I live on the west. And so you can't, it's impossible to go, we just found out by driving accidentally that these people were building this. So if you can find a way.
Well, and there'll be a lot of opportunities to hear what we're up to.
Thank you
If
for
we
your
haven't
time.
made any decision today,
Thank you. And I didn't cry.
Sarah, thank you. Yeah, you did well.
Hi, my name is Sarah Escovitz. Thank you all for giving up your dinner time as well. I lived in the Patty Jewett and Old North End neighborhood for over 40 years. They're both neighborhoods, and they were wonderful places, not without problems, but they were wonderful places to raise kids, to know your neighbors, to have what we all ideally want to think of when we talk about family neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods, mixed neighborhoods. There are apartment buildings, there are duplexes. And I just want to ask you to stop. Stop with the STRs, stop with the ADUs. We all know there's a crisis in housing. It's nationwide. It requires immense commitment of resources, of political will. It requires the hard work. It does not, and we will not solve it by whittling away at the character and the qualities of already established primarily family residential neighborhoods. And families can mean older people who raise their children and a widow who's still living in the home, okay? Because she has neighbors who will help her. It can mean a home that was, built over 100 years ago, and has turned over several times, and now has a new young family. I'm asking you to stop in the name of this idea that we have to deal with a housing crisis. We do. But you folks need to be looking at a much larger picture. We need to be getting government funding. We need to stop the developers who get to make their little bucks, in place. And I will tell you that an ADU is going to be an STR. Okay, it's happened in my neighborhood. In my neighborhood, we have quite a few larger homes that have carriage houses, that have little cottages off the alley. And for decades, those little cottages or little garage, houses on top of the garage have been rented, usually long-term. We knew the neighbors who rented them. A single man, a single woman, somebody who probably didn't have a lot of income, worked downtown in a bookstore, et cetera, et cetera. Well, guess what? They're not ADUs anymore. You can make a heck of a lot more money renting them out, even for just a few nights a month, as an STR, as opposed to having a tenant on your property all the time. And that's what's going to happen. It's happened in a radius of 2 blocks. There are 4 of those so-called ADUs. I'm sorry, but I waited 2 hours in the last
No, that's okay.
and never got to speak.
If you don't mind, we're wrapping up pretty soon, just because I think there's going to be 40 or 50 of you that want to speak.
Okay,
so.
but I do want to say, please don't, in the name of all kinds of PC and ideologies, take away from neighborhoods that people have invested in, that have worked for, have come to preserve, because it's not going to solve your housing problem. And you really are going to destroy what we do have in terms of good neighborhoods and good housing.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I think I better.
But I also want to say, you don't have the resources to police anything that you put in place in terms of ADUs, SDRs. And it's going to come down to neighbors, fighting neighbors, police.
I know, I'm sorry, we better wrap it up. If the first 2 are an example, we'll be here till about 10 or 11. But thank you.
Those are important issues.
No, and please keep letting us know. We're not. I'm sure other people will know.
Okay, and do you folks respond to emails? Because I've sent out all kinds of emails and never got a response except from the neighbors.
Yeah, it's hard when they're, especially this kind of specific issue, because literally we've got 400 or 500 of them. And so to respond to everyone is difficult. I wish we all had a personal assistant that we could have to help us. But when we get mass emails about things like this, we tend to not be able to respond. But it's not saying that we aren't reading. We always do. So that's important.
Well, I just hope you also realize that we homeowners, not just business, so-called people in business with real estate, we have a financial interest.
No, I know that.
And when you add people, you don't just add a square footage. You add cars, you add noise, you add
we know that, sorry, but I gotta get other people, sorry, otherwise we'll be here all night. Greg, come on up. And then I have Caitlin Daverco, Teresa McNary, and Richard George.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Greg Hill from the Rock Rimmon area. I've learned about this about 2 weeks ago, and I've seen the impact of increased housing in Southern California, and it's been horrific. Let me go through just some quick facts that I pulled off the websites and your information. If fully implemented, the stated goal is to add 68,000 rental units across the city, many within single-family home areas. In 2017, the population of Colorado Springs was 465,000. If fully implemented, this has the potential to add 200 to 300,000 people into rental units across the city. If fully implemented, this has the potential to add over 100,000 cars to our city. If implemented as planned, this proposal provides 1/2 or less of the off-street parking that can be reasonably expected, i.e. 2 renters in a unit equals 2 cars typically make payments. I have a question about, is there an environmental impact statement? I don't need an answer right now, but I've been looking for it. If fully implemented, this proposal would add an unknown number of students to our school systems, and the impact of which requires additional study. A stated goal is to provide housing to aging parents, dependents, or disabled adult children without incorporating ADA compliance requirements to the ADA compliance to the ADU permit process. How can we ensure that the special needs of elderly and underprivileged are met? Given the building costs in Colorado Springs, how can the council assure affordability of these rental units for the elderly and the underprivileged? How does the Fair Housing Act apply to the ADU rentals? Unless specifically limited, how can this ordinance assure the ADU availability to residents and not to VRBOs, etc.? Some lessons learned in Florida. They allowed ADUs with a minimum of 450 square feet. After that was passed, the minimum size was eliminated. There's no minimum size now. In Estes Park, ADUs were pushed as an affordable workforce housing, and it didn't work out. 75% reduced Airbnbs, and affordable housing was actually reduced. The minimum lot size was eliminated after being adopted. In Glendale, California, people park 2 blocks from their units due to overhead for converted garages. There's no parking on the streets. In Colorado Springs, the ADU ordinance provided mostly alley access with much larger lots to accommodate the structure and quality of neighborhoods in our life, not for single-family neighborhoods. I see I'm running out of time. I want to go through I have suggestions, but in closing, the goal of this ordinance is to create a vibrant, diverse community. Without modifications, it will allow congestion and overcrowding. Importantly, create conflict in single-family neighborhoods that was never envisioned by these homeowners. Single-family housing, single-family zoning is a special opportunity, and the sense of community created by single-family zoning should not be impacted by opportunists or commercial entities in the name of public housing. Thank you all.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Greg. And just so you know, I guess there's 68,000, the staff is here,
Yes.
Potential homes that could do it. But I think it's even less than that. In Denver, it's been about 1,000 a year. So it's not likely that every home will have this. But what you said, it has a lot of.
Indeed. Without cited limits, which are some of my other talking points that I can't do. Without limits, it could go that way. It could go to 100,000 cars, 250, 300,000 people if you look at the numbers.
Yeah.
So I would suggest or recommend that you please table this, review it for additional impact. And if there is an impact assessment study, I'd like you to get a copy of it, find it where I can find it.
No, it will definitely be available. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Christiane, whether you come on up. Oh, yeah, so you don't have to speak if you don't want to, but please do, yeah. And if you don't mind, we can get the mic a little closer to you just so we can hear you, that'd be great, thank you. Oh, is it off? Okay. Yeah. So now let's make sure it's on.
Thank you. Anyway, I am in Colorado Springs off and on for many, many years. I have a daughter who was conceived born here. She's pretty close to her 50. I'm 80 years old, and I bought a house again. I sold my homes, and I came back. And I bought a house about 25 years ago. I lived in the Divine Region neighborhood. In my suite, I have already 2 Airbnb in back of me on Yampa, which is in my backyard, literally. I have another Airbnb, and this has affected the neighborhood somewhat. Now you're talking about having homes built on the pieces of land, extra pieces of land that people have. For instance, I have a small yard. Every other house in my neighborhood is built like this. One neighbor has a big piece of land, another one has a small one. This is my case. And every other house is like this. So, in my backyard, looking at my backyard, I have that big piece of land who belongs to the neighbor who lives on Yampa. And that man has an Airbnb, and he's been talking about building a home, a garage with a home above. My next door neighbor, who is a very good neighbor, has built a huge garage. That's not mine. I have a garage, he should have a garage. It's for an Airbnb, for his camper. Okay, but that neighbor has an Airbnb. He wanted to build a mother-in-law's apartment. Anyway, if he was to do this, that would be in my face, and I did not buy that house and that kind of a neighborhood. We would be congested. There is no place for those new people who live there to park because there is a back alley. And I think it's very unfair. Now, if I had not bought my house when I'm dead, today I could not afford it. Because the price of the home had gone sky high. It means that I have a reduced income as a widow, and the price of the home went up, the taxes are double from last year, and so is my insurance. So what are we going to do? I don't think it's a good idea to have those homes built and spare land, because there's going to be congestion. And I agree very much with the the gentleman who spoke earlier.
Okay.
Okay. And by the way, we have too many people in Colorado Springs because we don't have enough water.
Yeah.
It's something we should consider. We have had too many building permit issues as it is. Like in the Banneroots Ranch, where there is no water. I live there, I know. Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay. Caitlin Daverco. Teresa McNerney, Richard George, and Kathy Zayringer. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Caitlin Daverco. I'm here on behalf of Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity this evening. At Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity, we know that there's no silver bullet to solving our affordable housing issue. And we would like to commend the city on exploring options outside of the box for addressing this issue. We at Habitat provide permanent affordable home ownership opportunities. So when it comes to talking about rentals, we want to make sure that thought is given to how rental properties will be affordable for the renter, meaning it's under 30% of their gross monthly income. And then we also want to make sure that thought is given to how these units are going to be maintained as at least semi-permanent, so they're not short-term rentals. But we would like to thank the city for considering options outside of the box. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Teresa?
My name's Teresa McNerney, and as longtime homeowners of 30 years in Boulder Park neighborhood, my husband and I have the following concerns and questions. Number one, the proposed change of zoning to our single-family neighborhoods to allow ADUs is a breach of contract with us homeowners in the R1 zones. It unfairly targets our older neighborhoods because we don't have HOAs and covenants to decide whether we want ADUs or not. Many newer neighborhoods with HOAs vote against ADUs and short-term rentals. Point two, if ADUs would be allowed in single-family neighborhoods, we need to stipulate they can't be used as STRs. Otherwise, these ADUs will defeat the stated purpose to increase affordable long-term housing. Why would you rent out long-term when you can get much, much more money as an STR? Already, the bulk of the 1,300 plus non-owner occupied STRs are in our older neighborhoods. And last, I have questions. how would these new laws be enforced? If owner occupancy is required, how will the city know if owners are in compliance? Would the city hire more staff? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the SDR issue we're going to talk about next Tuesday. And so that, and we're reserving probably the whole afternoon from 1 o'clock on. And so we can talk about those issues at that time. Richard George.
Good evening. Mr. Wall, I'll speak louder. Good evening, honorable council members. I'm Richard George. I reside with my family at Broadmoor Valley, 315 Hidden Creek. We specifically purchased a home in there so that we could do multi-generational living. We are the grandparents, a couple of kids, and my son and daughter-in-law are both teachers, saddled with student debt and child care costs. So it made sense for us as a family to combine households and move into a house that was basically a ranch with a full basement that has 2 levels, one full house on top of another, basically. We remodeled it. What we would like to do with the ADU, of course, is to be able to have a full kitchen on both levels. There's almost a full kitchen in the walkout basement level. It only requires a stove, which of course is against current code and covenants. So this is a very traditional living arrangement, multi-generational. Most of us in this room that I've observed can certainly remember the Waltons. So it is never our intention to ever rent this space to a non-family member. And we entered into this living arrangement to help everybody out. As we age in place, we'll have our children who are right there with us to help us. And we'll be able to watch our grandchildren grow up in a very nice neighborhood and a very nice school district. So this is a win-win for all of us all the way around. This is not an income opportunity for us. It is a family enhancement opportunity. So I understand the concerns of those who are worried about an influx of multiple dwellings on lots designed for only one house or one structure, and the concerns of those who are worried about an uptick in short-term rentals, and some of the problems that stem from those arrangements. I do not envy council the task of trying to craft regulations and laws that will fit everything. I support the idea of permits for ADUs, and I hope you will give some careful consideration to the needs of families who are doing nothing more than what families should be doing, which is helping one another and looking after and providing for future generations. Thanks for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Richard. Keep your applause, I'm sorry. Kathy Zero there, and then David Lord, Claire Anderson, and Daniel Smith are up next. The other thing I forgot to mention when I opened up was that this is going to be one of 2 town halls. So we're going to do this again.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Zeringer, and I live on the near west side. My husband Tom and I recently built an ADU on our R2 property with the vision of creating retirement income in the short term and a longer-term vision of being able to age into our one-level cottage while renting our larger house to a young family, maybe our kids, and sharing our and home care responsibilities as an intergenerational environment. This will allow us to age in the neighborhood we dearly love. Though we will not benefit directly from allowing a more flexible ADU code in R1 6,000 or greater to include detached ADUs, I fully support passing this revised code as it will greatly benefit our community in creating affordable housing going forward. Why do I believe this? Because I was involved in the code scrub and I saw it as a very conservative first step to creating greater housing supply for both our millennials as well as our boomers who might be the more cash-strapped or cash-constrained at the beginning and conclusion of our work lives. It's conservative because of the requirements for owner occupancy in one of the 2 units, a larger lot size, which doesn't seem to be being discussed, 6,000 square feet or greater, height limitations on any building that's not built off the alley. And I think that next week you are seriously considering placing a ban on all R1, including these SPs.
In short-term rentals.
Yeah, on short-term rentals, yes.
Yeah.
So short-term rentals and ADUs really need to be quit being commingled, because this really would add to housing supply, but it's a very small step. There's other steps that we can take with policy to reduce CSU impact fees, as well as create, affordable financing, but with the goal only of creating long-term housing and meeting our goals within the comprehensive plan. So I implore you as a city council to help us address, the objections of some very loud opponents who seem to not understand how conservative this proposal is, so that we can really move forward in a proactive fashion to create an age-friendly, intergenerational, walkable, bikeable, sustainable community as reflected in a comprehensive plan. So I recommend that this code passes written. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, David Lord.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me a few minutes. I am Dave Lord, and I'm really here today wearing my hat as chair of the housing domain of age-friendly Colorado Springs. This strategic plan, one of the goals that it ran under the housing domain was to see the city change its codes and allow accessory dwelling units as a step to trying to make housing more affordable. I want to thank council for doing 2 things. One, obviously, in approving the COS plan, it allowed it to do it. And again, the work that you have done with city planning to try to put this code in place. I realize as we do it, there will be compromises. I hope what does not happen is you become so frustrated with the problem that you do nothing. Because working larger, not only on accessory dwellings, but looking at the affordable housing problem in this community, we are going to have to make some changes to policies and the way we do things. I would just like to indicate, obviously nationally, AARP has done an extensive amount of work in a number of communities with looking at codes, looking at how to go about it, how to make livable communities. It's interesting, I think you just commented, that where codes have been changed hasn't necessarily opened up a floodgate to new housing. So I just want to say in closing, as we try to deal with this larger community problem, thank you for the work that you've done. Hope you don't get frustrated with this issue and decide to do nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Claire Anderson.
Hi there, good evening. I'm Claire Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of Innovations and Aging Collaborative. Innovations and Aging, as I hope you know, is a small nonprofit in Colorado Springs concerned with advancing issues surrounding the older adult population, as well as the implementation of the Age-Friendly Colorado Springs Plan. Colorado Springs became an age-friendly city in March of 2016. The Age-Friendly Plan was developed in 2016 under the guidance of Jan Martin and submitted with the support of City Council and Mayor Southers to AARP in that same year. Since then, Innovations and Aging has been administering the Age-Friendly Colorado Springs initiative on behalf of the City of Colorado Springs. One of the domains of livability in the Age-Friendly Colorado Springs plan is housing, and a central action item under this domain is to increase awareness of alternative housing options like accessory dwelling units to amplify the demand for a variety of housing options. Like all the action items and goals in the Age-Friendly plan, this item was created by a group of dedicated community members, professionals, and experts. The steering committee for the housing domain recognized the importance of expanding ADUs in 2016, and City Council has an opportunity to fulfill this identified need now. In a 2018 survey by Elevated Insights, a local research firm, 94% of older residents indicated they are likely or very likely to remain in our region throughout retirement. As our older population of all abilities, incomes, ages, and mobilities increases and wants to stay in Colorado Springs, we need to fulfill the demand to age in place with a variety of housing types. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. So I have Daniel Smith, Steve Bruger, Alan Bukvar Klein, and Harry Sullivan.
Hello, Council. Thank you for hosting us tonight. My name is Daniel Smith. I'm a pastor at Ascension Lutheran Church and chair of the Colorado Springs Faith Table. Last year, in the homelessness action plan, the council and the city passed goal number 4, which includes the removal of any barriers in developing attainable housing. This proposed ordinance is conservative, as someone mentioned, and is a great way to take that first step in improving affordable housing in our city. The city is growing and the city is aging, and I don't think any of us can stop that, and this ordinance won't increase it. It's just how we're going to address it. And I'd like to see us focus not just on worries of neighborhoods, but we can address those, but also on the worries of those who are struggling to find a place to live in our city that is affordable. I think there's a lot of ways that the ordinance can address the fears of short-term rentals, as well as the fears of neighbors, and some of those have been brought up already, including eliminating short-term rentals, requiring that they be attached at first, these ADUs. But I'd like to think that we can approach this in a way that still allows this affordable housing to increase, because the folks are coming, the population is going to increase, and the question is what we want our city to look like and who we want to be able to afford to live here. And I like to think that is a broad range of folks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, Steve Bruger.
My name is Steve Berger. Thank you for hosting this town hall. I, by the way, am president of a 321 single-family homeowners association. We've been watching the short-term rental issue as well as the ADU issue for quite some time. One of the things that I worry about is the fact that in all of these discussions, there is sort of a broad brush notion that HOAs can do what they want with regard to SDRs and ADUs. It is not that simple. Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act requires a vote of 67% to change the CCRs. I'm fortunate that I'm in a homeowners association that just requires greater than 50% to change the CCRs. But nevertheless, it is costly to change the covenants. As a matter of fact, we're having our annual meeting next week, and I suspect that early next year we will vote to change both the short-term rental and ADU provisions. But here's the central point of what I'm trying to tell you is that it is not just an easy thing to do. It is complex. I realize what you're doing is complex, and I appreciate it. For example, we can't just ban non-owner occupied short-term rentals. It's going to have to be all or nothing on that. And similarly, it's going to be for ADUs, if the attorneys tell us we can't ban just detached or one time, because it creates somewhat of a discriminatory climate if you do that, and it opens up litigation possibilities. So all I'm trying to do is sensitize you all to the plight of homeowners associations. It's not as easy as people make it out to be. That's all I have to say. I appreciate 2 minutes and 20 seconds or so of time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Steve, appreciate that. Alon? Did I pronounce your last name right?
It's Bukvar Klein. It's a mouthful. But thank you all for taking the time to listen to our thoughts. My name is Ilan Bukvar Klein. I'm a resident of the Old North End, and I'm also part of the Colorado Springs Pro-Housing Partnership, as you can see from my shirt. I'm not the only one in this room wearing this shirt. There are many folks, as you can see, and the folks part of this partnership represent a diverse range of stakeholders throughout the city, including veterans groups, faith leaders, teachers, firefighters, and nonprofit organizations. And we collectively believe that we need to find a political solution to the issue of affordable housing here in Colorado Springs, and that the ADU ordinance would be an important first step in doing that. Fundamentally, it would increase the types of housing in places throughout the city. This would increase the housing stock, therefore creating more of an equilibrium between supply and demand, reducing the cost of housing throughout the city. More housing in more places would also reduce urban sprawl, which is currently putting a strain on our road infrastructure, police and fire departments as well. Additionally, more housing in more places reflects the city's own strategic plan, and so we want to make sure we hold the city accountable to that. And lastly, more housing in more places will help us meet the diverse housing needs of residents within our city. So, young families moving to Colorado Springs, veterans returning to the city, and seniors who are looking to downsize and stay close to home would all be able to remain in their homes, or close to their homes. So ultimately, we're not asking you to increase regulations, raise taxes. We're just asking you to allow more people to build more houses in more places. So we urge you to pass the most aggressive version of this ordinance that would allow attached, detached, and apartments. This is the change we want to see in our city as a group. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you, Lon. Harry Salzman, James Johnson, and then I have Lynn Peterson and Margaret Gresham.
Good evening, Harry Salzman. I'm here this evening representing Pikes Peak Association of Realtors. We've seen each other a few times, and the reason I'm here this evening is, as you know, I was on the steering committee. We have a lot of goals of the future. I'd like to bring your attention to Chapter 2, all about the future relative to land use, zoning, etc. Council passed unanimously, and now we're back to perhaps modifying land use in certain neighborhoods. We feel it's going to create more responsibility on a realtor, because what if a piece of property is sold, somebody puts in a second home on the same property, which based upon this could take place, that could be legitimate, but then that necessarily would not have been represented at the time. So it provides some more responsibility to a realtor if this shall pass. In addition to that, what I was told 2 Tuesday nights ago when we were together, apparently there's going to be a change in zoning next year. They mentioned that to me, and there's some kind of change.
We're looking at the zoning code.
Yeah.
Over 20.
So once again, though, our responsibility as a realtor, if we have knowledge that that's going to happen, we need to disclose that. So my point is, between the planned COS, which is all right there, our guidelines, it's terrific. Look at all the research that was done, all the experts that put together, all the members of the community provided their goals, and it was accepted. So we have that, and now with the possibility of what we're all talking about tonight, that's a potential change. And then again, if you're looking at modifying zoning use, that can also change. My point is that becomes the responsibility of every realtor to disclose that. That provides more responsibility. And we're not comfortable with that. And that's what I want to bring to your attention.
Okay. Thank you. And Wayne, did you want to?
I did, sir. If you could come back to the podium.
Sure, come on back to the podium.
reference, you were, and not having been on city council at the time of Plan COS, you were part of the committee that proposed and worked on Plan COS, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. At least as I search using the Adobe search function for however useful it is, I see one reference to ADUs that says incorporation of options to effectively integrate additional housing design options and choices in additional areas of the city, including smaller and potentially more affordable units such as accessory dwelling units. But it doesn't say in every area of the city. And so it looks, and I'm trying to get your sense of what that meant. There are certainly some zones that may be appropriate, or the new zoning manual may provide for a permitting zone. I don't see in there that every area of the city is designed under Plan COS, and I was wondering what your perspectives were as someone who's served on that. And by the way, thank you for doing that.
Thank you again for the opportunity. Our role is to really provide the right legal disclosure of land use when somebody buys a property, sells a property, whatever it is. It's our responsibility to represent that. We know it, and that's where we really want to be. And we want to factor in whatever's in the Plan COS. We totally accepted that. It's terrific. There's enough, let's say, brain power from every imaginable personality in the community. And we just see there's like a gap between this potential and taking place to what's in Plan COS. And that's where our concern is. Since we're still on the table of what's going to happen and who might get affected, we just want to let you know we're a player for the community, but it's full disclosure is the issue.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. James Johnson, and then Lynn Peterson, Margaret Brett Schneider, and George Woodhead.
Good evening, James Johnson. My main thing that I wanted to bring to the council is the consideration of subsidies and incentives for developers and homeowners of potential ADUs. Right now, the cost, I believe, is maybe $150,000 to $175,000 to get a new ADU built. But if we were able to have incentives for developers to come in and subsidize that cost, I think it could go a long way in expanding access of ADUs and for affordable housing. And at the same time, maybe some density restrictions so that we're able to still get these ADUs in the neighborhoods, but neighbors won't feel the strain of having too many come up in a short amount of time. So I would just ask that you guys consider any options that may make the financing a little bit easier on the buyer side, incentives for them as well for the developers to go ahead and get this done for the city. That's all.
Thank you, James. Yeah, Thompson. Yeah.
James, can I ask you, do you have any ideas of how developers and builders could incentivize this? I mean, what is it that they could do that they could offer to decrease the cost?
Well, and that's a good question. So currently, right now, our company, we're working with a couple of property owners on a city where they have the cottages and the carriages already on the properties, but they have fallen into disarray and disrepair. Right. So we're essentially working with them in the department to fix these properties, and we're doing a incentive or a revenue split with them by allowing different people to come in there. So if we can have different programs where it helps us with the construction of the property, and over time, if we keep that unit affordable, to say that then those gains can come back to the company as well as the property owner, for them to get maybe the property taxes get lower, or something amongst that lines to help them out to make it more than just that the rental revenue for that property, right? Is over the long term, and it has multiple benefits built in for it.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Lynn? Come on up. Lynn, I think was involved in the comprehensive plan that we did in 2000.
Yes, that's right. Yes, and there was a kind of a call in there for infill to be encouraged, and this plan does that too. Anyway, we'd like to thank you for holding this town hall meeting, and I'd like to commend you for thoughtfully considering ADUs options. I'd like to quote your comprehensive plan of 2018. It states as follows, introduction. Our plan should be used to support and not to restrain the market, private initiative, strategic public investment, and innovation. Your vision statement begins, we will attract and retain residents of all generations with an innovative, diverse economy and dynamic, well-connected neighborhoods that provide viable housing opportunities for all. I view the addition of an ADU allowance to R1 zoning provisions as one way to implement your own plan, a plan with lofty goals. I also like to mention recent reports that the city's cost of living is above the national average, but its wages and wage increases are not. This stark reality is a clarion call, I believe, for a city to do things which could very possibly narrow the gap. It is hard to provide viable housing opportunities for all, your plan, if one is not open to proposals like the ADU, which arguably could increase the supply of housing in already developed areas, infill, if you will, and arguably would help meet the demand for more affordable housing with some lower priced offerings. So the aforementioned to me is economics 101. But there's also a humanitarian or spiritual aspect to making a decision on ADU. My church's strategic mission plan component that calls for the church serving those in need includes a goal that calls for member involvement in combating homelessness. It is an example of the faith community being concerned that unaffordable housing contributes to homelessness. Also, a highly respected, at least in its beginnings, faith-based local nonprofit that provides basic preventive and supportive services to those at risk of becoming homeless is concerned that Colorado Springs urban spread, I thought that was nice, instead of saying sprawl, that person said spread, continues to create a lack of affordable housing. This lack could be mitigated by a revision of R1 zoning's restrictions, and that could enable more infill and also help nonprofit agencies better serve those who are homeless or threatened by homelessness. So, bottom line, I'm hoping you'll pass some revision to the R1 zoning.
Thank you, Lynn. Lynn, stay up there. Wayne has a question or comment.
This is more just, thank you very much for your service to our community. I would clarify for those who were listening that the article you referenced was on a per capita basis, and if you read the fine print of the article, Colorado Springs got dinged because our family sizes are larger, so they counted our children in that capacity, and we have more children than the national average. So
we're not as bad off as
we're not as bad off, and I'm sorry that the 4-year-olds and the kids in D11 and other places don't earn enough money to bring us back up, but I wanted to clarify that.
Okay, and I'm sure that was there. I think I read the whole article, but
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right, Margaret, George, and then Fonda.
It seems they were getting bogged down in what constitutes a family, what constitutes an apartment with 2 stoves or 1 stove or whatever. And I've never felt that this had anything to do with like intergenerational things. That's just a personal thing. We're 84 and 85. So at some point we may have to have one of our daughters live in with us and take care of us. I don't think that either of these things would change that. But I have 5 quick points that I'd like to make. You hold in your hands right now a vote that will change our lives forever. There are reasons why people buy in residential, single-family homes, because they like the quiet, they like the wildlife, they like having your neighbors all, get together. But if you are going to lose that option by doing this, and I think that's a danger. You want a lot of people coming here who will bring jobs, who will start businesses. You've done a great job of looking forward for the community. But this
going to solve your housing problem. It's a drop in a bucket, and it changes everybody's life. And I don't think that you guys should be in the position of voting to do something like this that's so different. And if you want to do either kind, either the ST whatever or the ADUs, you really need to do it in new areas where they already have. The buyer can come in and say, okay, now I know we can't have a business, we can't have an ADU, that's fine. But I don't think it's fair for you to do this in existing neighborhoods. We already chose our quiet life. If we wanted to live downtown, we would have lived downtown. But these people who want to change all this on existing communities already are taking out our dreams in order to get theirs. And that's not going to solve your people problem. I have a couple of suggestions from Europe that work very well. For instance, one of them is that they have a thing where if somebody comes in with an apartment building thing, they'll require, by law, a certain percentage of it be low income. Like attic apartments, they can be little single, just single attic apartments, little studios, and maybe 10% or 5%, whatever you desired was there. But that doesn't bother them. It gives a lot of older people or singles or people who need space affordable housing. That's just one. The most important thing here. This isn't something you can take back. It's not like 10 years down the road we'll look like Southern California and we'll say, oh my God, what have we done? There's no way to undo it. You can't unmake this kind of decision, and it affects all of us. Yes, we want more, affordable housing, but not by ruining neighborhoods where people have already chosen their homes. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
I even have a copy.
Applause. I apologize for do that. George Woodhead, Mon Bell, and then I have Michaela Burns.
My name is George Woodhead, and I want to thank the City Council for all the work that you're doing to face the problems and the changes that are occurring. And there are many changes occurring here in Colorado Springs. It's exciting to me that thousands of people are moving into Colorado Springs because they're excited about the kind of community this is. They're moving in there by the thousands, and I understand that because of that, our shortage of housing is extensive at all levels of income. And particularly, it's very short in the affordable housing area, where the money isn't available of these people to meet the changes that have occurred in the costs of housing. So I think it's important, as you're looking at many solutions, and the accessory dwelling unit is just one of them. And we look at the fact that when Denver passed an ordinance allowing these, that it didn't destroy all the housings and all the fears that many people were afraid of didn't happen, but it did increase to some degree the affordable housing. And we'll have to find many other areas of increasing affordable housing, but I believe that this area of accessory dwelling units is one that should be accepted and used. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, George. Fondell. Michaela Burns, and then Ken Schauer.
I have 2 points that concern for me. What I'd like to ask you is to, as you're moving forward with your decision, to please explore any unintended consequences that could happen. I was asked by the city some years ago to write the city landscape code, and I have a master's degree in urban planning and urban landscape architecture. And one of the chief things that we always look at is, oh, we didn't see that coming. And so as you look at this,
I ask you to be aware of our climate. I recently had Rush Edgar, our state climatologist, and he said all the models show that in the future our summers will get hotter and drier. And when you have an urban environment, you have something called albedo, which is the increased heat sink of the urban area due to roofs and pavement and roads and those kind of things. So I think that we should be aware of the health impact with the additional generation of traffic and the particulate matter, the heat, and also with regard to all the plant material that we have in nature. We've worked so hard to have a beautiful city. There's so much data out now. In the last 20 years, songbird population, for example, is down 20%, or 50%, excuse me, in 20 years. And so we have a lot that we want to think about, not only the health for humans, but the health for all the trees and the plants and the animals and birds in our city. So I ask you to be aware of that. Also, that I have worked with a lot of developers in the last 30 years. A lot of them are have very good intentions, but a developer is about developing. And so I have some concern that by making this an attractive situation for developers, that it will encourage a lot of out developers who are not from Colorado Springs to come here, buy up housing, and then convert it or change it. As this has happened in a lot of cities we see, for example, in Detroit. A lot of young people have been moving there in the last years, but now the developers have gotten onto that and they've bought up the housing, and so there is somewhat affordable housing, but it's not affordable to buy. You're stuck renting because these developers have come in and scooped everything up. Also, I just want to say that in Nashville, they were very visionary and they did a lot of infill, and now it is complete gridlock. I'm from Nashville, and that is the one comment that everybody has when I go back to visit is we can't go anywhere, we can't do anything because of the gridlock. Open space, we all love open space, so if we live in Colorado, we love the national parks. Open space has such a good quality of life for everyone. So let's maintain some areas of single-family residential that have spacious quality because that benefits everyone.
Thank you, Glenn. Michaela Burns, Ken Schauer, and then John Bitter.
Hello, my name is Michaela Burns. I'm with Innovations in Aging Collaborative, and we administer the age-friendly Colorado Springs plan. I wanted to give you some statistics. 53% of Americans either live alone or as a couple, and only 12% of the housing stock is either a studio or one bedroom. ADUs can help fill that gap, especially for seniors. Some AARP surveys of people 50 plus show 85% want to age in place in their home community. 84% would consider an ADU to provide for a loved one in need of care. 67% support for ADUs as increasing the value of their homes. 60% would consider an ADU as a place for a caregiver to stay. With only 20% of Americans living as a nuclear family, 87% of existing or new build housing still has 2 to 5 plus bedrooms. If planned appropriately, ADUs can help fill this disconnect by increasing supply of affordable housing and allow seniors and others to be close to work, recreation, and shopping. The recent call for multi-generational living is also supported. Perhaps grown adults will occupy the ADU on parents' property and then switch to a larger home when they begin to have children. Safe, supportive housing is integral to age-friendly communities. As an age-friendly city, we encourage you to support the proposed ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Ken Schauer.
Hello, my name is Ken Schauer. Thank you so much for hosting this tonight. I'm the president of the Colorado Springs Area Labor Council and vice president of the Colorado LCIO. I live over in Mesa, Ridge Parkway area. So I would just like to add a couple other issues that we haven't actually talked about. When you increase the density in an area with the amount of people that live there, you also increase the amount of workers that are close to the work that they're going to do, and you also improve the mass transit that's available in an area because more people will need it. And as you know, population density is a critical component to good mass transit. some of the concerns that I know that some people have in this room. I do know, speaking to my apprentices that come through the workplace and the people that I work with in the labor unions, that housing is a major critical component to their livelihoods. A stable housing environment provides a stable workforce. And that is something that we desperately need as we build and we grow here in this community. I've heard a projection recently that they're looking at upwards leading to 100,000 affordable housing units. Have you heard this number? That is staggering. Therefore, I know that this is not the silver bullet that will kill that werewolf, but what it will do is it will help. So we need to have the multi-pronged approach, as you well know, and I appreciate you for looking at this. So speaking on behalf of labor here in Colorado Springs and in Colorado, I would strongly encourage that we look at moving forward on this and allowing this to be developed so we can have good quality affordable housing for our developing workforce. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. And just to comment on that, I've heard about 25,000 units, short affordable housing units. And that was a study done in 2014 that was supposed to be predicting 19. Now, we are doing a new affordable housing assessment and master plan that's going to come out in February. So I imagine it's going to increase, but 100,000 I haven't heard of.
Yeah, I heard that this weekend at an event where we had two different organizations, Springs Rescue Mission and the Homeward
Spike Peak, yeah.
That was the number that was bandied about. So
Okay.
I'm sure that there's, and I mentioned there was somewhere between 25,000 and 100,000.
There may be a reason, but it's a lot in there.
All right, thank you.
Okay. John.
Good evening, council members and neighbors. My name is John Minner. I'm from the Accessory neighborhood, and I am for the ordinance to increase housing, the attached, detached, and the above garage accessory dwelling units. The arguments for it creates more housing, which by supply and demand makes it more affordable. We need that in our city, and I know that many of you ran that as a major platform for your election campaign. It allows the development of income and wealth for people that live in this community. You know, the other options are to build apartment buildings, large developers, investors from out of town would reap profits of that, the tax incentives. This allows people living here in this community to benefit by creating this housing, having a rental income, gaining equity in their homes, and creating wealth right where they live. As mentioned, it reduces suburban sprawl. Of course, it increases the density, it does increase the traffic, but that supports our existing businesses, our existing schools that are right here that we have trouble funding already. This increase in the equity and the value of our homes increases the tax revenue for the city, and it allows us to pay for things that we need regularly. And it most importantly, it allows people who want to move here the opportunity to rent in neighborhoods they want to live in, schools they want to go to, and just gives them more opportunities to live where they want to live, which is great for people who want to come live in Colorado Springs. The arguments against housing are understandable, but I feel they're overstated and they're manageable through good processes, which we do need, and enforcement as we move forward with this. Crowding and parking are always an issue with every development debate. And there should be requirements that there is parking provided for units that are added. Undesirable renters, of course, are a concern, but people who own properties that are rented don't want undesirable renters either. And they do not want to make their owners angry. So we do need to deal with undesirable tenants just like we do with undesirable neighbors in every case. And there are needs for enforcement issues that we're being mentioned. There's been concerns about developers coming in, developing properties, dividing properties, but we have processes in place to control this, and we need to trust our city staff to manage these development process, construction process effectively as they do already. And we do need to trust our neighbors and the city staff to do things that they're experts at. So in summary, I'm for the creation of additional housing in the accessory dwelling units, and I will pass the ordinance.
Thank you, John. All right, this is the end of the list, but who else would like to speak? Come on up, and I'll get you next, and then you third. Okay, you'll be next. Okay. State your name for the record.
I'm Lee Weston, and it's going to be hard for me not to repeat a couple of things, but I'm going to start with saying thank you for being here. It'd be great to solve the affordable housing crisis, yet we know that ADUs are not the solution, nor are they affordable. I lived in homes in Skyway since January of '85, and have regularly communicated with more than 300 area residents via email and in person for a couple of decades on issues related to police, fire, safety concerns. And when this ADU concept bubbled up about 9 months ago in the public, and I announced information about it, and people had time to digest it, the primary reaction was that people felt betrayed, that our elected officials would attempt to change R1 single-family zoning to R2, which some people see as duplex. We would be altering the legal contract, which I think would be reprehensible. And plus it is against our covenants in Skyway. And some of the city's 68,000 people, they don't even know about this. I bump into people in Bear Creek when I'm running and get to talking about it because this keeps me awake at night. They don't even know about it. So we already have a city planning variance process that works perfectly well. You know, somebody wants to change something about their home that isn't in their zoning, and you know, they pay a fee, they send it to planning, and it works just fine. People can contest it. Planning council has a final say, but it works. And if somebody wants to put a kitchen in, it could work in single family. But to rezone everybody, it's wrong. So why do Skyway residents say to me why they don't want their R1 zoning ripped away? In the event of our next wildfire, the few routes that we have to escape would be further clogged, potentially causing death. Many have invested heavily to buy their homes and wish to retain high property values. Stability and long-term quality of life are important to us. Code enforcement, regional building, the CSPD and CSFD all are overtaxed with our population. We're not Portland, we're not Minneapolis, we're not Salt Lake City, we're wonderfully different. And if you look at our founding fathers, as Alice Venus Taylor's father, Judson, said, if you want to stand all your life for right principles and leave your country better than you found it, your day in the world has been worthwhile. So please preserve the integrity of our neighborhoods.
Okay. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it. Yes. Okay, come on up. You're next. And then I'm going to get you over here, and then you're in the front row. And I'll get you next.
Good evening. Thanks for this opportunity for input. My name is Jen Marcy. I think I might be the only one here who's actually considering trying to do something with an ADU. I live over in Hillside, which is one of the rougher neighborhoods and one of the older neighborhoods, and a lot of the area that's zoned R2 already, that's already being considered for ADUs. And I frankly think the proposed ordinance doesn't go far enough. I really would consider and have looked at the tiny house option. I found one at the recent Jamboree that's 8 feet by 20 feet, has all the essential things you need on one level for us older people, and it was only $28,000. But I think you need to understand there are some barriers for us in these old neighborhoods where you want us to give it a shot, and some of the barriers are things like the utilities. You know, they want $8,000 to even begin to hook up utilities separate from the house I'm already in. The house I'm in is 70 years old. I cannot just attach new electrical. I cannot just attach new sewer. The codes are old enough. It's difficult enough. So the option of a more transportable tiny house is a much better option for most of us. And those of us that are considering it may have future needs, like my granddaughter going to college, not just me aging there. Or I have older sisters in other states. I might need to use the tiny house temporarily somewhere else and still be able to come back and maybe rent out my house. Short-term, long-term, I'm not sure which. In my neighborhood, the long-term or the short-term ones that I've seen have actually improved the neighborhood. You know, there's less crime, there's less, if you talk to people, they're normal now in my neighborhood. It's reduced the police, just so you know that. Anyway, I just wanted y'all to know that. And I have friends whose kids are coming of age, leaving high school, just ready to leave, and they have to leave the state to find housing. It's outrageous. Their 35, 40-year-old kids working at Walmart can't make it here. It's getting crazy. And while I grieve the loss of our peace and quiet too, and I've lost a lot of it in my neighborhood as well, as some of our older folks who mentioned that, you know, things start changing. People got to live somewhere.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. You're next. Come on up. And, yeah.
Hi, my name is Ken Charney. I am chair of an El Paso County Veterans Group that has 451 members. That has nothing to do with what I'm about to say, simply because I don't live in Colorado Springs and had no intention of speaking, but I think that I can add something to this narrative. I'm old. I'm 74. My wife and I live on Social Security, and I get a small pension for my VA disability. This spring, we realized we needed a new driveway, we needed a new deck, and next Monday, they're coming out to look at the roof because we have a leak. We were living fine before, but those are big expenses. Where we live, we have no HOA, so we made a decision to rent out our basement. It worked out really well. We listed on Craigslist. Next day, 2 people called, said they'd take it sight unseen. Needless to say, where I live, there's not a lot of housing. What this has allowed us to do is stay in our home. Yes. Without this opportunity, we could not do that. We would not be allowed to be in our own home. We own our home. There's no mortgage. But we have a very limited fixed income. And that's what I wanted to add, plus one other thing. Once our renters moved in, immediately, none of our neighbors noticed. There was no traffic issues, none whatsoever. We also realized that none of our neighbors even noticed we had rented it. Now, are we typical, atypical? I have absolutely no clue. But in my particular case, it saved our home and did not hurt anyone. The person we rented to is a psychiatric nurse practitioner who last month opened an office and hired people in Colorado Springs. Everything positive that could occur has in our particular case. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, and so I think you're next. Dave, yeah, this question.
Mr. Charney?
Yeah.
Ken?
Ken, come on up for 1 second. Dave has a question for you.
You don't have to share this. I'm not meaning to pry, but it's just to give me a concept or whatever. Can you tell me generally whereabouts you live?
I live in Monument, unincorporated Monument.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thanks. So you're next. Come on up.
Hi there. My name is Candace Woods, and I'm a resident of Mid-Shooks Run. I love walking and biking downtown, so thank you for bike lanes. As an elder millennial, it is becoming more. I'm an elder millennial. I love that. 1985. There.
Can we say okay, millennial? Just Just don't say, okay, boomer.
I'll try to keep that out of my mouth. I do want to say that I am concerned as a citizen and a resident of Colorado Springs that the thing that is reprehensible is that we have people living on our streets. That we have people who don't have access to affordable housing. We have young people, some that I serve at Inside Out Youth Services. I'm not speaking on behalf of Inside Out Youth Services, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself tonight. The youth that I serve are experiencing homelessness and poverty and lack of access to affordable housing. And ADUs would help meet that need. Like a number of my neighbors have said tonight, it is not a silver bullet. This is not the only thing that needs to happen, but it is a step in the right direction. My neighbor from Skyway over here named that we're not Portland and we're not Salt Lake, but you're right, we're not, but we're getting there. And we have the opportunity to stave off the effects of increasing unaffordability in our city. So I'm concerned that the not in my backyard folks who are, okay with their neighbors building a massive garage for their camper, that aren't okay with building a house for a human being, that's reprehensible to me. And I'll just name that. The loss of a view of a tree, damn, that sucks. But what I'm concerned about is people's lives, the people who we see every day on the streets, these people who need access to affordable housing and to be in homes, in basements, in Monument, right? Where they're living with other family members, in Broadmoor, wherever they are, that they are able to be in homes. And that is a concern to me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Candace. You just hold your applause. I think you're next. Come on up. Yeah. And so state your name for the record.
My name is Lynn Murphy. I'm with the Baptist States HOA. I'd like to find out how many people here are owning their homes.
Yeah, and if you could speak into the mic, and Yolanda was probably about 80% raised their hands. So.
I was just curious about that. I personally don't think that you're going to solve your affordable housing problem with going into neighborhoods that are already established and trying to allow them to have ADUs. That's just not going to work. It's not the affordable housing, from what I've heard people say today, is way too much of a problem to think that you're going to solve it by going into established neighborhoods and change that by adding ADUs to those neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Who else would like to speak? Come on up. You're in the back there, and then I'll get you next. I think he's first. And
my name is Russ Lockhart. I live in the Black Forest area. I would like to say that ADUs would be a welcome possibility for families with members that have special needs and helping them to age in place with families. I also work at a company where I see young people on the verge of homelessness. Some actually homeless, converting vans to campers, things like that. So anything that you can do to help alleviate that would be a welcome benefit to the people I've worked with. And specifically to people, families aging in place and families with special needs. I would hope that you give special consideration to that. Thank you.
thank you, Russ. David?
Russ,
come on back up.
And I don't want to ask the name of your company. I don't want you to give that because there is actually some employment discrimination against folks that are homeless. But can you tell me just generally these folks that you see that are the younger workers that are converting vans and that are, how much are they making a year?
I would say $10, 12, say $12, $15, less than $15 an hour, around 12, 13,
12 or 13, are they working full time?
Yes.
Thank you.
So that's 12 hours an hour is 24,000 a year, and about 30,000 for 50. Thank you. All right, I think you were next in the white back there. Come on up. Yeah. In the white sweater. Yes.
Hello, my name is Sue Bass. I've lived in Colorado Springs since 1979 and in my current home since 1988. It's in a part of Colorado Springs called Old Farm, and the houses that were built in the late 70s, early 80s. They're about 10 to 12,000 square feet, much larger than the 6,000 square foot lots that you see builders build these days. My husband and I saved, scrimped, and sacrificed to purchase this home. We could have bought a new house in Briargate, which was a new community, but the houses there were very close together. And that was not the type of community that we wanted to live in. We appreciated the extra space, and we're willing to pay for that. There used to be a homeowners association in our subdivision in the late 2000s or mid-2000s. The state changed how homeowners associations had to be run, and a lot of the small homeowners associations went defunct because they just didn't have the money to hire the lawyers to draft all the new documents and pay everything that you need. So we don't have a homeowners association. We don't have any option of opting in or opting out of the ADUs. And I feel that by making this a blanket requirement that anybody of the 68,000 plus homes that are affected by this, somebody could build a second home on there. I feel that's a breach of the contract that the zoning, the R1 zoning was when we purchased the home. There are certainly needs in this town for additional housing, but you're going about it by targeting the people who are planted in their homes and have lived there. And where are you asking for new development to put up a development for ADUs? There's a luxury apartment complex of 350 units that went up close to my neighborhood 2 years ago. There's another one planned, luxury apartments, okay? I mean, let's spread the wealth, yes. Don't put it all on us who saved and sacrificed and who live where we live, because that's where we want to live. The detached ADUs, I think, are opening a Pandora's box. If you want to let people put a stove in their basement and rent it out, fine. Fine. They're living on top of these people, and they'll regulate themselves. But putting a whole unit on the property, I think, is just a complete breach of trust.
Okay. Thank you, Sue.
I would like to say something.
We want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak. Okay, but let me see if I can get a few more people, because it's close to 7:30. Who else would like to speak? I saw a hand up. Yeah, and there's one in the back. There's 4 or 5. Is council okay staying a little longer? Maybe just a couple more of us. And sorry, and I'll come and talk to you afterwards. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Bill Huff. I've been a resident in Colorado Springs for almost 25 years and lived up in Woodland Park before that. We are among the aging in Colorado Springs. 2 things that I'd like to just present briefly. First of all, it's come to our attention that we have a lot more house than we need right now. So we have a 5-bedroom house, 3-bath house. That's my wife and I living at home. We would be glad to sell that place and move to a smaller place. My wife would love to move into a smaller place. We've checked out some of the more recent places that are being developed for our age group, the 55-plussers. And we've determined that that's not the way we want to spend all the rest of our money that we have. Not that we're poor, but the places that they're building right now for senior adults, the communities, are way above what we want to invest as senior adults and commit ourselves to. And so that's not affordable housing for senior adults at the moment. So the one thing that we were very interested in, I've never been at the city, I've never even been at the city hall before. But I've come here because it's a nice place.
Well, thank you.
I'd like to come
That's right.
But one of the things that was attractive to us about ADUs is this. We don't have boomerang children. Unfortunately, our children we're the only ones living here in the community. But the one thing that we see as a very attractive thing about ADUs is we're on a corner lot. It's not a big lot. We live at approximately Vickers and Flint Ridge, sort of up on a nice little hill. And our lot is quite large. It would definitely qualify for an ADU. We'd love to either consider moving into an ADU behind our house and renting our house and offering it to a larger family, or but we're not. My wife's not too excited about having other people or strangers living in our house with us. So for us, the ideal situation would be to have our front house that we could continue living in until we get to the age where we can't climb the steps. We have stairs in our house, and then moving to the ADU or moving to the ADU behind us and renting out the house now. I think it is important. This whole thing about population and a community that's a nice, quiet community, I think they do need the opportunity of having parking. It needs to be on the property and not on the street. I don't like that. The other thing I was going to mention is in my retiring age, I'm a Lyft driver. I love driving and I love interacting with people. And I found that interacting with people, a lot of them are new people coming into our community, and they're all saying the same thing. They're looking for housing, but they're looking for affordable housing because they need something that they can get into the city and get grounded, settled, and then they can move on to other properties. Okay. That's my...
Well, thank you, Del, and you're welcome to come back anytime. So we have, let me do one more in the front there, and I think we better wrap it up. I think the rest of the council. Oh, I'm sorry. Then you in the back with the glasses. Come on. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for the time. My name is Carrie Schillinger. You may know me as the chair of the Commission on Aging, but tonight I am here as a resident of the Patty Jewett neighborhood where I've lived for the last 13 years of my almost 40 years in Colorado Springs. I would like to age in place. I would like to be able to build a small ADU attached to my garage and move into that at some point, 30 or 40 years down the road, and have one of my children or perhaps a tenant live in my house so that I get to stay in this neighborhood that I love so much. So I would like to suggest a new acronym be considered when we have this conversation, which is GIMBY. Yes, in my backyard.
All right, we'll